Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining us for our second Facebook webinar. So today's topic is about social life and campus safety at DePauw University. I'm really happy to be joined by three upper-class international students. If you guys could please introduce yourself.
Okay, hi guys, my name is Fumika Daimon. I'm from Japan, a sophomore at DePauw, and I'm majoring in education studies and minoring psychology. So yeah, I'm so excited to be here.
My name is Pidenjo. People call me PTK. I'm a junior, and I'm from Burma, and I major in pre-engineering and I minor in physics.
Hi, my name is Shuqi Li. You can just call me Sue. I'm a sophomore from China, and I'm majoring in economics and minoring in Asian study. And I can't wait to share my experience.
Awesome. So before we start asking questions, I want to acknowledge that Eliza Frame, our Director of International Student Services, is helping us this morning. She's filming this session, and also she's monitoring the Facebook page. So please ask your questions, and we will be very, very happy to answer it for you. So with that, our first question is, how did you overcome culture shock?
Okay, so my culture shocks I remember is like in my freshman dorm, like I was living in Longden, and like my dorm and also like my floor was co-edo, so like it doesn't happen in Japan, so like I was really surprised at first, but I mean I got used to it as time passes, and also like I have a roommate from America, so like she helped me a lot to get used to a new environment and new culture. So yeah, I think it was really helpful. And also I want to talk about my global partner. She is a domestic student, and she's really interested in Japanese culture. So like we're really good friends. And yeah, so like when I was struggling in class, like I couldn't participated in class a lot. So like, but like at that time, like she helped me to practice like discussion and stuff. So like, yeah, I really appreciate that, and like I really like that program. Yeah.
And so, just so that students understand, that's a program that any international students can join?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so like first year international students can get their global partners, like their American students, like they help you to get used to a new environment and new culture. Yeah.
Very cool. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And I do have similar experience with Fumika. Like when I was first there are so many culture shocks in living, like difference in living habits. For example, the hot water thing, because I am a big fan of hot water and don't provide any hot water in the dorm, so I have to boil it by myself. Sometimes it's kind of not convenient for me. Also, the way people grade is kind of different from what I've learned back in China, because what we learned is basically how are you, and I'm fine, and think like and you. But here, people tend to use like what's up or other ways of greetings, and made me confusing at the first time. Also, during my first year, there are a lot of language barriers for me. It's really hard for me to catch up with the class and my classmates because they spoke so fast. So after class, I went to the office hours and asked my professor how could I do and are there any ways to kind of solve this. And she was really nice and helped me a lot. And she kind of slow her speak and also rephrase everything to me. So I think it's really helpful for me. Also, just go to the office and connect to your professors, and they're really helpful and want to have you like adapted to the American culture.
I want to add something to that, and what they've mentioned is very true, that DePauw is a very supportive community, and because of that I was able to overcome a lot of culture shock. Mm-hmm. And there are several ways that I overcome it, and one of the ways is that I use my strength to break out this barrier between domestic students and international students. Because even for domestic students, they have culture shock because people come from different states to Indiana. Even they have culture shock, so keep in mind that we are not alone as an international student. For me, my biggest hobbies are playing guitar and playing basketball, and through that I was able to connect with domestic students. And when you're doing activities like that, you just automatically break the barrier between them, and you don't see the difference between each other anymore. And that way, like, I make myself feel comfortable here.
Very cool. Thank you guys. Really good suggestions. Could you please talk about the support provided to international students in our community here at DePauw?
Okay, so like I talked about global partner already, so I'm gonna talk about my advisor.
Okay.
So like I'm majoring in education studies, and like my advisor helped me a lot, and like not only in class but also like outside of class. And yeah, so like last year she invited me for Thanksgiving dinner. So like I've never had Thanksgiving dinner, which is a big American culture, right? So yeah, it was such a good opportunity for me to experience American culture. And like she always asks me like how I'm doing, how I'm feeling, kind of stuff. So like yeah, I think like the DePauw community is really welcoming international students.
I would like to mention my first year seminar professor. She's like super supportive and helpful, not just in class but outside the class. I always went to her office hour and talk about my personal experience with what's going on and what are some moments I feel uncomfortable talking with my students. And she always guide me and tell me to be patient, to be open-minded, and it's okay, you cannot speak English very well and stuff. Another kind of my mentor and my friend, she's from my Hoosier Hospitality program, which is a program that connects you to a local family in Greencastle. And my Hoosier host, she's like super sweet. She works in a library, and she kind of taught me a lot about like American culture and like some of the ways people might think. Yeah, just also connect me to the resources in the library and other aspects.
So the question is the support
for international
student. For me personally, until now, I'm pretty much the only person who was raised and grew up in Burma. So nobody really on this campus, except one friend, can understand my home language. So especially for me, there were a lot of difficulties, even as an amongst other international student. But I'm very thankful that Eliza and Lutfi, they're the main people when you think about international student support. They are always there for me, and whenever I have a lot of difficulties on campus, and when I feel like I cannot approach to any other friends, Eliza and Lutfi is always there for me, and I'm sure they are also there for any other international students, same and equally. So I would say, if you come to DePauw, use these resources because there are a lot of support out there, and if you're facing any type of difficulty, DePauw community will help you in any way possible.
Great. Thank you, guys. And could you tell our prospective students about your involvement on campus? What do you guys do besides academics?
So currently I'm on board of 2 clubs.
Wow.
One is DCC, DePauw China Connection, and one is Wamidan. So what I have done in the clubs is kind of help organize the club activities. And yesterday we just have our TCC formal, which is kind of a huge celebration of our community in a fancy restaurant. And also for Wamidan, yeah, like Wamidan is another club of celebrating culture, so dancing and other kinds of performance. Every semester we just have a lot of cultural events, including food workshop, dancing workshop, and spring showcase. And I really learned a lot from being part of the club, and learned about how to share my culture and how to also learn a lot from others' culture. So I think they're just my valuable experience. Also, besides that, I work in admission office as a liaison, so I have a chance to talk to a lot of prospective students and share my experience here and answer their questions, which made me really kind of grow a lot and learn a lot about my identity and what I could do.
Yeah, so going off of that, I'm working for admission office, like Sue said, and also I'm working for a Japanese department as an assistant. So like I think it's a good way to like use my culture and contribute to the campus. And also I'm in sorority, so which is like Greek life for girls, and like we have fraternity, which is for boys. But yeah, I think so. Like members are mostly American students, so I think it like being in a sorority is also a good way to experience American culture, and also like fraternity and sorority aim to do philanthropy or volunteers. So like I contributed to campus by doing like some activities held by like my house or the other houses.
And also, going off of Greek life, there has been always a growing number of international students participating in Greek life as well. For me personally, throughout this 3 years at DePauw, I've been involved in a lot of different things. Just experiencing what I would like to do after my life at DePauw. But currently, I'm the president of Society of Physics Students. Unlike the name, it's actually very inclusive, and it's for everybody to join. And we are currently building a hovercraft, and it's about to be done. It's about to be done. So hopefully, it's a busy semester. Hopefully, by this end of semester, we'll keep the hovercraft floating. And I used to be the vice president of International Student Association, which is an organization on campus to promote and to share international students' culture with the DePauw community. Not just the DePauw community, but also Greencastle as well. I'm also currently an ITAP intern. ITAP stands for Information Technology Associates Program, and I'm currently doing an independent paid research project for autonomous robotics, since I'll be studying computer science later on with my pre-engineering program.
That's awesome.
To add on that, we have so many clubs, and there must be one you will be interested. Also, clubs are free, kind of welcoming you to join. For example, I joined a lot, like dancing clubs, also rock climbing clubs, volleyball clubs that I'm interested. And also, besides in the community, we have a lot of volunteer works you could participate. In my first year, I joined a program called Student Friend. Also, Fumi joined as well. So basically, we went to an elementary school and talked to one elementary school student, discussing how's your day and how's your week and what's your concerns. Just be their friends, be caring and supporting to them, which is pretty valuable program for me. And there are a lot of other programs like this, as long as you reach out to the community, and we have provided a lot of support.
Awesome. So the next question is, are there activities at DePauw to promote inclusivity?
Okay. So we just recently have a really big fancy building, and the name of it is called CDI, which stands for Center for Diversity and Inclusion. The reason for having that building is to create a space for students of any background, basically for the entire DePauw students. That is a place to feel safe and to have a community. We have a lot of spaces for example, we have a space for AAAS, which stands for African American Student Association students. And also there are a lot of events hosted by CDI staff as well.
And so is the CDI also for international students?
CDI is for everybody, so including international students, because our international student office is also located at the CDI as well. And I can add on a lot of things later, but I'll let you guys answer first.
So another really important and annual event happened on campus is the Day of Dialogue. So it's a day where people conduct serious lectures regarding race, identity, and their role in the community, and how could we connect our behaviors to others, and how the community impact. So it's a really valuable day that people from different community, including the local people, they will come and listen and we'll discuss, think critically about our identity and how to be more respectful to other cultures. And that's the way I think DePauw made a huge effort to engage people, not just students and faculties, but also people from community to learn about each other's.
Yeah, so I'm gonna talk about, I guess, like ISA, I guess. So like this club is like not only for international students, but also like everyone, like including American students or faculty members and stuff. So yeah, I think like they usually have like events for anyone, and like to improve like our diversity on campus. So I think, yeah. And also like, okay, I'm gonna talk about like my sorority, and it's like not only international students but also like white students are also working on diversity on campus. So like they have like mandatory events to improve their intercultural communication skills and kind of stuff. So I think, yeah, it's like college are working on diversity like in general, like all together. So.
I just want to add on something to the Day of Dialogue that Sue was talking about. Just to clear it up, Day of Dialogue is one day where we cancel all classes. We stop all the activity that's happening just to bring all the community together to talk about diversity and inclusion. But mainly is to educate everybody to be, like Sue mentioned, to be respectful to each other. And I feel like when I participated in Day of Dialogue both years when I was here, and then I felt like I learned a lot about other people's culture as well. And it's such a great way to connect with other people, because that's a day where you actually feel comfortable sharing about your opinions and not worrying about people judging you. So during those days of dialogue that I participate in, I felt like DePauw feels so much like home to me more, because I was able to share them about my culture as well. And I realized that people actually want to listen to you, and they actually want to know about your culture.
So I'm going to just add one quick question, because many of the students are now in the process of finalizing their decisions, whether to come to DePauw or another university. So I want to ask you guys if you feel safe and welcome in this community, from your perspective.
Yeah, okay, so like I really like one of my favorite things about DePauw is like supports for international students. So like we discussed already, we have like many supports for international students. Like for example, okay, so summer immersion program, which is happening right before the orientation for international students. So like the summer immersion program is a program for like international students who are kind of struggling to like speak English and write English kind of stuff. So like the program helps you to improve your English skills. So like the program is for 2 weeks. So like you can learn like how to survive college life, how to write academic English writing kind of stuff. So like I was in that program when I was a freshman, and I learned a lot. So yeah.
And you get to be on campus 2 weeks earlier than anybody else. So you pretty much have this little small community with international students, and you pretty much have the entire campus for yourself. It was such a great way to get used to America and DePauw in general too. So.
Did all of you did the summer program?
I did.
I did.
The summer
Okay,
program.
that's cool. Yeah. So would you endorse that program? You felt it was helpful?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a lot.
Regarding of safety problem, I feel really safe on campus, and I always study like in library until 1 or 2 a.m. And school provides safety rides after 11. So if you think you cannot go home alone, you can just call public safety, and they will have a car to send you home, which for me is pretty good option and let me feel safe. Also.
Could you please explain what is public safety so students would understand?
Okay, so public safety is like the campus security. just secure to make sure that students feel safe on campus, and they have provide a series like services for students. And regarding of the recent events, they also have more investigations and like of caring and more security cars and people around the campus to make sure that everyone is safe. Yeah. So basically, it's like a school police. And if you have any incidents happen and any like say you feel uncomfortable, you could just call public safety, and they will have people, counselors to help you.
And DePauw is such a tight community. We only have 2,300 students in total, roughly. And we actually have a lot of police officers patrolling around the campus all the time. So in terms of physical safety, don't worry about it. Just come to DePauw, you will be safe. But in terms of mental safety, DePauw do have counseling programs as well. And there are also a lot of, something is going on campus all the time. So you always feels like, it almost feels like the campus is always vibrant to me. Like no matter what time it is, students will either be studying at 2 a.m. in the library or somewhere in the union building or any other academic buildings on campus, or other students will be hosting like activities, clubs and organizations will be hosting activities. So in terms of safety, there are always students around. So you don't feel like you'll be alone all the time in that regards. And for me personally, like I mentioned, I'm pretty much the only person from my country. So if I can survive DePauw for 3 years now, you all can survive as well.
So there is a questions that we have, and Eliza can read that question.
Yeah, thank you, Nina, for your good question. Nina, who's joining us in the class of 2022, is asking, what is the thing you like the most and the least about your DePauw experience so far? Given the chance to repeat your first year or your first few years, is there something you would have done differently?
Very good question.
So there are 3 questions.
So what do you like the most and the least, and what would you do differently had you the opportunity to repeat your first years?
Can I start first?
Yeah.
Okay. What I would say I would like the least about DePauw is some of the times students want to take, the way you schedule classes, you have to go through this process where you can rank which classes you want the most, and you have to choose alternative, the class that you want if you were not able to get into the class that you want to get in. So some of the times, like as a student, I really want to take a lot of different classes because DePauw really does offer a lot of diverse classes, and like classes are really interesting. When you just look at the title of the class, it's so interesting, and you want to take some of the classes. But unfortunately, like you are only limited to take certain number of classes. So I mean, there's nothing really to do about it, but I just wish I could take more classes here, you know, as a person who's always curious. What I like the most about DePauw is, I would say, the tightness in community. So what I mean by that is that whenever you walk on campus, every 5 minutes you will see somebody that you know. Right? And you know it's very true because like every time you walk on campus, you'll be saying hi to a lot of people all the time. So you don't feel like you're somewhere else, even though you're in another country and you're not in your home country. It almost feels like people know you and you know people, and you know that people got your back, if anything. And what was the third question?
So
again?
the third question, I think, if you had to do your
something.
first year again, what would you change, right?
What would you do differently
What would you
if
do
you could
differently?
go back and do it again, knowing what you know now?
Yeah. I'll think about it and I'll get back to you later.
Okay, so yeah, I already talked about like supports for international students. So like one of my favorite things about DePauw is like this campus. So when I visit here, it's like I fell in love with this campus. I really like this campus. This campus is really beautiful, and it motivates me a lot. So yeah, and also like the list things. I'm gonna say, I guess food. I don't know, but like the freshman year, like we didn't have a new dining hall, so like it was kind of different from right now. But I mean, yeah, I missed the Japanese food a lot during first year, but I think like the new dining hall and like there's staff are working really hard to have like international food. So like I think it's getting better. So yeah.
Same for me. Like the least thing I don't like is the food. It's really different from my culture, and personally I don't like burger and sandwich. I don't like cold food, so food here was a really struggle for me. Unfortunately, they have more Chinese food provided, and I believe next semester they will have more diverse dishes, and I think it will be really good for me. The most thing I like is there are a lot of things I really like, including like community and stuff, but I want to mention about the academic part. Before I went to DePauw, I wasn't really clear like about what I'm going to do in the future. And when I was here, all my professors and friends around me like strongly recommend me to take different classes from different disciplines. And I do challenge myself a lot to take classes I've never like really thinking of. For example, geology. I took a geology class in my second semester of my first year, and it was so different from what I learned before, and it was challenging but interesting. Also, I took computer science and other math classes, which I was not really good at in my senior high school. So, also DePauw give you a lot of freedom to choose, to give you time to decide what you're gonna do, like what's your favorite class or disciplines you want to take step in, and it's really awesome for me. So I could take a lot of different classes and explore myself, see what I'm good at, and then really like. So I think that's a really good thing for me. Yeah.
I want to add on about the food again, because Hoover Dining Hall is very new. It was built, I think, about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So that means, because I'm a junior here, when I was a freshman, I had to eat at like half the size of the dining hall here. And if you come to DePauw, you'll see how big and really nice the dining hall is. Some people say it looks like Hogwarts in Harry Potter. But the good thing is that when I was at the old dining hall, there weren't a lot of variety of food. But when they had Hoover Hall, they had this separate section for international food. Just a separate section just for international food. And every day they'll have different international food from different countries and all the time. And I'll just tell you a little short story about it. So one time when I was walking at Hoover Dining Hall, there's this one chef that always cooks at the international station. And I always get his food, whatever he cooks, because I really like him and he's always nice. But one day, like, he stopped me and he asked me, like, where are you from? He said, I'm just curious. And I said, oh, I'm from Burma. And a lot of people don't know where Burma is, so I kind of explained him where Burma is, and he said, like, how many Burmese students do we have on campus? So I said, I'm actually the only Burmese student on campus. So he said, you know what, like, if you ever want me to cook your home food, just give me the recipe, and I'll do it for you. Yeah. So that was really sweet, really, you know, it really touched my heart. But I told him, like, you know what, the bad thing is I don't know the recipe. So I'll talk to my mom first, I'll get back to you.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice story.
Yeah.
You wanted to say something?
I mean, I want to answer the third question, like
Okay.
what I would change if I went back to my freshman year. I'm gonna say I would be involved in like more activities on campus, because during my freshman year I was really busy. Like it was so hard for me to like catch up like classes and stuff. So like I couldn't do like anything other than like studying, like basically. But I think like participating in like many activities are like always good way to expand your community. So I think, yeah, I hope like I can do that.
And for me, I will be more active and kind of more brave and more confident of my own identity and my English speaking skill, because I was kind of struggled with my English in my first year because it was not so good, and I'm really too shy to speak to some Native Americans, and I'm worried that that we will have misunderstanding on each other. So I was kind of hesitated in my first year and didn't really reach out to the outside community. But if I could redo that, I would definitely be more confident and be more open-minded and reach out to other people.
I wish I focused more on what I want to do in the future. So it's a little hard to navigate when you're a freshman trying to figure out what you want to do after 4 years, because 4 years will fly by really quick. So for me, I wish I focused a little bit better on my academics, because I'm also really big on extracurricular as well. So that's what I wish I did.
And I think many of you talked about, sometimes challenge with language, and I want to share that I think many prospective students know that I'm originally from Morocco, and so I also, when I first came as a student, English was a big thing, was a big struggle, and I always tell students, don't feel bad, because it took me a whole semester, to understand my professors, and our students that come to DePauw, their level is way higher than students who go to big state research universities. So that's one thing, and I think that the second thing is, I think Sue mentioned, being braver, and I want, prospective students to remember that, they're speaking more than one language, So like English for many students is like a second or maybe a third language. They're speaking their native language, and I'm sure they have one or more, and then English. So I think hopefully that should give students strength, and a feeling of accomplishment, because they can write, in more than one language, communicate in more than one language. And many Americans can only, communicate with one language. So I think remembering that, you're doing more than one thing. You're traveling to another country and then doing everything in another language. So that's really, really brave. Like when people just take a moment to think about that, how brave that is, fly all the way from China, Japan, Burma, or other countries, that's super brave. And I think the last thing that I learned, from one of my mentors is not, like you talked about identity, like feeling very proud about your identity, like remembering that you're first and foremost a Japanese or Burmese or Chinese, or any of those nationalities, Pakistan, India, being proud of it, and then knowing that accent is not a bad thing, Like I don't think anybody should try to, unless students want to, but I don't think that's the goal, is to speak the same way that majority Americans speak, because the way that you speak, is your identity. That's very unique about you. You're speaking differently, but with your accent, and that's something that every student should remember, that you should be very proud of who you are. As long as you can communicate, that is really the goal, not to speak the American way.
That's right.
So guys, thank you so much for participating in this webinar. So there is one more question.
Hamza's joining us today and asks, does housing and board include the on-campus dining costs?
Does the housing and board include?
So I'm going to just modify a little bit. Is the dining fee included in what we call the room and board fees?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Board
So yeah.
referring to.
So the cost that students see in their admission letter will include everything. So it includes their scholarships, and then it shows the total cost of attending DePauw, and then a breakdown of the room and board. So the cost that we show students has everything, all the fees, and all the direct cost. Indirect costs would be, insurance. Every student needs to add insurance, and then personal expenses. So, cool. Do you guys have any final thoughts that you want to share with incoming students?
Any advices that we
Advice.
want to give?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go first. So like I really like DePauw. I really enjoy my campus life here. So, but I think the most important thing is you choose the best school for you. So like I'm more than happy to share my experiences here and also like help you out. So like please reach out to me if there are like any questions or like any concerns. So like yeah, thank you for listening.
You know,
Okay. So, as I mentioned before, like, no matter which university you go, just be more confident and be proud of your identity and try to get like engaged and present your culture as much as possible because people here, they don't really know you, but they're really interested to know different things about your culture and stuff. And yeah, and if you come to DePauw, I strongly recommend to participate as much as possible because we have so many great programs like Who's Hospitality program, which I really benefit from. Also, like the clubs and stuff, which I feel really, really good at and kind of help me to be better of me.
so hopefully if you're watching this entire webinar, you can kind of tell that even for upperclassmen students like us, it takes some time to adapt into American culture in here. So that's not something that's surprising. Is that the culture shock is definitely one of the things that international students have to face, and that's also something that we were able to overcome in a very short period of time, especially because of the support system at DePauw University is very, very different from other universities. I have friends from other universities which tend to be bigger, and they also have international student services like us, but they're only normally there for legal purpose, so they normally just do your legal paperwork, and that's pretty much it. Here it's really, really different in a way that they personally care about you for each and every person. So that's what I really like about it. So if you end up choosing DePauw, keep in mind that you will feel like home here. And some of the advices I want to give you is to be yourself and be confident at everything and be open-minded all the time. Because when you're open-minded, people like it, and you'll be surprised how much people are willing to share about their thoughts and opinions if you keep yourself open all the time. So, thank you.
Thank you guys so much. That was awesome. Great, great advice. Thank you. Thank you for taking this time and talking to our prospective students. So I want to say thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We hope that this has been helpful to you. As our upper class students mentioned, please, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. You can post on our Facebook, you can email. Please know that we are here for you. We want to help you, and best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you.